folks. In this video I'm going to show how I made these sunglass cases. They're padded. I love them. I think they're so cute. These are my prototypes. On this one I left a lip open on it and I didn't put a tab. On this one I put the tab. This was, I think, the first one that I made. I didn't sew around the top edge to give it a finish, which I prefer. And on this one, I did sew around the top edge, but I gave it a curve. I left the cutout in the file for design space, but I'm not demoing it because doing curves and circles is not my forte at the moment. I need a lot more practice. I'm just beginning to sew, so it's a learning process. I've also left the applique for the sunglasses and Disney in the file, but of course it's up to you if you use them or don't use them. So that's it. If you'd like to see how I make these, keep watching. So let's get started. I have my lining fabric, my outside fabric. I have the fabric that I cut for my little tabs, and I was going to use a blue tab, and then I remembered that on the passport wallet that I made for my daughter-in-law I used a bright yellow zipper, so I thought I would make the tab in a bright yellow instead. So I have those pieces. I'm only going to use one of them. And this is the Inarform Plus that I'm going to use for a lining. It's foam, so it gives a good cushion to protect your sunglasses. And it's easy to work with. It's fusible on both sides. This is it, Bossell Inarform Plus. I bought it on Amazon, so I'll just set that aside. So we're going to start by attaching our Inarform to one layer of our fabric. We want to center it up, turn it over, try to make sure that it stayed where you placed it. I might want to move this a little this way. That looks pretty good. And we're just going to iron lightly to fuse it to one side. I like to attach it to the side that's going to be the outside fabric. That looks pretty good. And if it comes a little loose on the corners while you're working on it, don't worry about it because we're going to be ironing it again, probably several times. So you're going to put your lining fabric good side up and your outside fabric good side down with the foam visible. And we're going to sew 1/8 of an inch around 3 sides. On one end, we're going to sew only partially in on the edges because we need to be able to turn this in right side out. So I'm going to get my machine ready and we'll continue. Okay, so we're ready to start. For the tab, I've done it the usual way. I've pressed it in half and then pressed the bottom to the center and the top to the center and pressed it in half again. So I'm just going to sew down the open edge to create our loop and set it aside until we need it. There we go. And we don't need that right away, so I'll just set it aside. You could sew it in matching thread, but either way I find it cute if the thread matches the sunglass case or if it matches the loop, whichever you prefer. So now we're going to sew our case. We're going to start partway in, back stitching to secure it when we turn it right side out. We're going to sew around and stop partway in on this side, back stitching again to secure it. Actually, what I've done in the past is just take a couple of clips and put them along to keep the fabric in place while I'm sewing so it doesn't drop and get bunched up or misplaced. So here we go. I'm sewing about 1/8 of an inch away from the in-our foam. Pivot again. I think I should have done one more stitch, so I'll do it by hand. There we go. Pivot again. Stop and backstitch. Okay, so you want to trim off any excess thread. It's all going to be turned to the inside anyway, but you don't want the excess thread popping through while you're sewing your final seams, so we might as well get it out of the way. And you also want to trim the bulk off your corners so you get a nice clean corner when you turn it right side out. Being careful not to cut through the stitches you just did, or you'll be sewing it all over again. That looks pretty good. And now we're going to turn it right side out. Don't worry if your foam comes a little loose because you are going to press it again. So push your corner all the way through. Push this corner all the way through. And work the body of the case through the opening. There we go. I just used the handle of a paintbrush to push my corners out. Nice and pointy. Get them all the way pushed out. Okay. And this part you're going to want to fold in nice and neat. And we're going to press again so that the lining adheres to the inner foam. Let's go ahead and do that. Make sure this fold is done nice and neat because it's going to adhere and you won't be able to pull it apart without ruining it. So we press. I do find an odor when I press this inner foam, but it dissipates as soon as the project cools off. As soon as the heat is gone, you no longer have the odor from the adhesive. There we go. This looks nice, I think. Should be good. It's all adhered nicely. Okay. So we'll just set that aside. Okay, so now we'll go about closing up the sunglass case and finishing it off. You don't have to worry about the opening because when you sew this into one piece, it's going to get caught up in that seam, no problem. So I choose this as my top edge and I'm going to top stitch right along the top to give it a nice finished look. There we go. Trim off my threads. Hard to pick up when you have nails. There we go. Nice and neat. Okay. So now I've designated this as my top edge and I've top stitched it. So you can do this two ways. You can fold it with the lining out, sew all the way around both sides, the side and the bottom, and then reverse it, pull it through and reverse it. But I like to do a top stitch to close it up. So I fold my good side out, get it lined up nice and straight. I'm going to get a clip and my tab, and I'm going to put my little tab where I want it. Fold it over again. And I'm just going to put a little clip there to hold it while I get started. And I'm going to top stitch down this side and across the bottom, back stitching at both ends to make sure that it's nice and secure. And we're almost finished. Stop at the bottom, put your needle all the way in, lift your foot and pivot. And then we're going to go across the bottom. sure to back stitch at the end. And there we go. Clean up all your threads so it's nice and neat. I'm going to press it again to make sure that everything stayed adhered while I was sewing it. And I think I'm going to put a nice bright yellow logo on this, either sunglasses or the Disney logo. And that's it, done. You have your own custom sunglass case. I guess you could use these for your reading glasses also, but I like to keep mine in a hard case. But I love this for my sunglasses. You could actually, if you have this little tab on the inside, you could actually reach in and just trim it to make it a little less. There you go. Just trim that excess out. And we have it. So I hope you enjoyed watching this video. I hope you'll make some and post pictures. Thank you for watching.